to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
Razabani for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast Weigh-In Day here in Manchester with me, Sky Sports' Matthew Macklin. Matt, firstly, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to the fights.
How's the missus, by the way? How's Junior coming along?
Yeah, she's 6.5 months now, so yeah. Do you know, she's not showing that much. The weight's all down the bottom, so yeah, she's not a bit of a bump there now, obviously. But I'd imagine she's going to get a lot bigger now.
Are you going to get her back into shape after the delivery?
I've told her that.
Put her through a camp?
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, Natasha Jonas has had a phenomenal year this year. Three times, 3 opportunities to win world titles. I spoke to her last week and I said, listen, what's next for you? And she said, look, I would love that Katie Taylor fight in Croke Park, that rematch. I want to avenge that loss. And potentially even Clarissa Shields, because I love that fight as well.
Yeah, or also, you know, you've got to think about fights that are likely to get made as well. When you're talking about Natasha, she's had a brilliant year. So you think, look, Clarissa could come down and it's a fight that could get made, but she's already moved up in weight. I don't think the Katie Taylor rematch is going to happen, just because I think Katie Taylor's looking for other big fights. I think the Serrano rematch is probably top of the agenda there. And, you know, Katie Taylor's with Matchroom, and so it's a more difficult fight to make. But I think a very kind of realistic fight that could happen is Natasha against Michaela Mayer. You know, Michaela Mayer came over here. She lost the title in a very close fight to Alicia Baumgardner. You know, that's I'd imagine she's going to move up in weight now, because she's tall, very tight at the weight anyway, Michaela Mayer is. So I think a fight with her and Natasha Jonas over here or over in America, that's a fight that makes a lot of sense.
Dalton Smith came across the pond. Normally, when you have a potential star in the making like Dalton is, Matchroom are throwing everything at him. He headlined in Sheffield back in August, and then all of a sudden they lose a purse bid. And normally what a promoter might do is convince the fighter, forget the fight, forget the belt. We don't want you going on another network. But all credit to Dalton for coming across and taking on Casey Benjamin. Yeah,
well, I can only assume. I don't know what conversations went on, but I'm guessing that him and his team have said, you know, we're a British champion here. We don't lose that. You know, so we're going to defend this British title, and then we'll assess our options after. You know, what a great position to be in for him, a promotional free agent. I guess. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Last fight.
So this is that last fight, even though it's not on a Matchroom show. I'm guessing it's part of their agreement. So, you know, after this fight, he can look at his options, can't he?
What do you make of him as a fighter?
Sorry?
What do you make of him as a fighter?
Yeah, good. I like him. I like the look of him. He's, you know, he's only 12-0, so 25. He's in a great position. Obviously, a lot to learn and improve and develop, but that's of course he is. But he's, I think 2 years from now, you know, if he can box 4 or 5 times a year, he could be right up there.
Fraser Clark back in September got a lot of criticism about his opponent. Not at his fault, obviously. When opponents pull out last minute, you still want to fight, and promoters try to get the best available opponent that's out there. But he's up against Kamil Sokolowski. Obviously, Kamil's been around a while. His game is durable. Right opponent for Fraser?
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, Fraser really, it's been frustrating for him. I mean, I've been frustrated watching. I can't even imagine how he must feel, because really he's someone that has got to get a move on. You know, he's not a young kid, so time isn't on his side. That said, he's so experienced from his amateur days, and he had lots of WSB fights too, and they're like pro fights really at top, against good, you know, top level. So he's, you know, those fighters are the level they box at. So he just needs to get into. He just needs to get up to the 10-round fights, championship level fights ASAP. But obviously you can't go from knocking out a 1-round blowout journeyman who didn't want to fight to being in deep in a 10 or a 12 rounder. So you've got to make that, you've got to close that gap. So this is a good fight for him, because he's boxing a guy who's lost lots of fights but has been in there with pretty much everyone, and does spring the odd upset. You know, if Fraser isn't on point, or you know, he's having an off night, you know, he could come a cropper. So I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll get some good rounds in. You know, might go the distance, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. You know, if he got 6 rounds, wouldn't be a bad thing. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's the right fight at this stage, and he should win. And then it's really about building on that then next year.
Matt, when are you going to leave your comfortable seat with Sky Sports and jump in the ring and do some exhibitions?
No, not for me.
Come on.
No. I've enjoyed watching Ricky get into shape. I follow him on Instagram, etc. Seeing him getting into losing the weight, getting a smile on his face. You know, so I think I'm not into the YouTuber white collar fights. I'm not into the YouTubing boxing. I've made no secret about that. But the Roy Jones Tyson thing, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was an exhibition. It gave them something to focus on. It gave them, it gave them a reason to get motivated, to get into the gym, get themselves into good shape. And it's the same with this one, Ricky Hatton and Barrera. They're friends. They're going to wear 16-ounce gloves. But there's a lot of people watching. They've got pride. They've got egos. So they'll be competitive. And it's given them to see them. It's given them a bit of purpose, a bit of structure, a reason to get in shape, and hopefully then they can maintain that.
Ricky was quite tearful yesterday at the press conference. I'm not sure if you saw any of the clips. And when I spoke to him, he spoke about suicidal thoughts. He spoke about the mental struggles he went through and how he was close to just killing himself. And he feels he's in a better place now. Matt, as a fighter, is it difficult when you retire? And I know he's been retired 10 years. It's actually 10 years this month. When you retire, that there's no regimen, there's no routine. I was with Scott Quigg last week as well, and he said when I retired, I was a bit lost. It was camp, a little break, camp again, and I was lost. I had so much time. I started blowing up in weight. Is that tough for fighters after the career of boxing? Yeah,
definitely. I'd say it takes a good couple of years, really, because you wake up in the morning. It's your identity, who you are, your purpose. Routine, structure, a goal. Without having those things, then you're kind of drifting aimlessly. You've got no direction. What am I striving towards? And it is hard. And sometimes the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And even though Ricky wouldn't have had any financial problems because he did well, didn't he? He's greedy, he earned fortunes, but sometimes that can be a detriment as well, because he doesn't have a reason to get up. He doesn't have to get up or go to work or find a new purpose. So he's just floating about trying to find himself. Who am I now? If I'm not Ricky the Hitman, if I'm not the Hitman, who's Ricky Hatton now? Because since I was probably 10 years old, amateur boxing, then into the professional boxing, it's very difficult for fighters, any sports people, because you're at 30. Your days are number. At 35, you're done, really. You get the odd exception to the rule, but generally speaking, 35, you are old in sport. But you're not particularly old in life, and you got a long life left to live. So it's about finding purpose, and I know Ricky very, very well. When we were fighting, we trained together, we drank together, so I know him well. Like I say, this exhibition I think has served a really good purpose for him, because it's given him something to kind of focus on, to motivate him to get into shape. And I don't know if he's going to continue. I think it's probably a one-off thing, but hopefully it's given him it's got him to a place where he can maintain this kind of lifestyle now, get in the gym a few days a week, train, help the other lads, you know what I mean, and it's given him maybe a bit of closure. Maybe he's helping close the door on his own career.
Last week, Boxer announced a long-term deal with Adam Azim. Ben speaks very highly of him and touts him to be almost the face of boxing, or the face of at least Sky Sports over the next couple of years.
Yeah, big statements, but he's looked good so far. You can't. He's supposed to look good against the opponents he's fought, but he's done it. He has looked good, and it's people that have sparred with him. He won everything as a junior. I think there's no doubt there's talent there, there's speed there, there's power there. I think he's in a good stable of fighters as well. Success breeds success. He's around other champions. I think he's definitely got a very, very bright future.
Spoke to Ben yesterday. A man you know well, Liam Smith. You train in the gym with him with Gallagher's, and Chris EUBANK Jr. He said it's a done deal. Just going to finalise the venue, maybe the date as well. But what do you think of that fight?
Brilliant fight, wicked fight. That's a fight that's going to be a good fight. That can't be anything but a good fight. Liam Smith, you know, brilliant at making the other guy work. It'll be interesting to see whether EUBANK comes out and boxes him or just fights him straight away. I think at some point EUBANK will have to fight him, have to stand his ground and trade and exchange and punching combinations and volume. But he might box early on. But a great fight. That's a fight that I'm pretty sure will absolutely live up to expectations.
Paul Smith spoke yesterday about how he sparred EUBANK Jr. and so has Liam. Were you accustomed to those? Did you see any of those?
No, I've sparred with Liam. I haven't sparred with EUBANK. But obviously watched lots of his fights. Listen, that's a good fight. That's a good fight. Obviously they've got a mutual opponent in Liam Williams, but you know, EUBANK did beat him more conclusively than what Liam Smith did. But Liam beat him conclusively the second time as well. So you know, he's been in there with Canelo. Liam Smith has Munguia. You know, he should have won out in Russia, you know, as well. So yeah, him and EUBANK, that's a great fight. It's a great fight.
Got an appetite for FURY-CHISORA?
Sorry?
Do you have an appetite for FURY-CHISORA, honestly?
No, it's not the fight we wanted. Look, you know, it's not the fight everyone wanted to see. Of course it's not, but you know, I seen an interview with Buddy McGirt with Steve Kim the other week when he boxed 8 times. I think the year he was world champion, he'd won a title the year before, moved up in weight. You know, I think he boxed 7 or 8 times that year because he stayed busy. He stayed in the gym. All right, there were fights. Not every one of those fights were blockbusters. Not every one of those fights were 50-50 fights. But he stayed busy. He stayed in the gym. He stayed sharp. You know, to not have a fight, I say, oh, we should be in the gym training. Yeah, but people, if you haven't got a fight coming up, sometimes it's hard to maintain the focus. So the fact that he's fighting Chisora, he's already beaten him twice. Chisora, you know, there's a lot of miles on the clock there. You know, he'll give it his all because he always does. It would be a shock if he beat Fury, but obviously he can punch. So Fury knows he can't switch off. He has to give Chisora the respect, which he will. And yeah, it's a fight that I think we all believe that Fury's a massive favourite in. But you know, Chisora's someone you can never sleep on, and I think it's better that Fury's staying in the gym, staying active, staying fighting, than sitting idle.
Matt, obviously the WBC have got the convention going on at the moment, obviously ordered loads of different fights. I know when they order fights, it doesn't mean those fights actually happen. They've just ordered Thurman, Spence, etc. One of the things that they announced was that Russian fighters won't be allowed to compete for their titles, or will be allowed in the ranking system with everything that's going on in Ukraine. We know we live in a political world and there's probably wars going on everywhere around the world, as you know, as I know. Do you think that's a fair thing for the WBC to do?
Look, what they say, avoid discussions about politics, religion, and all the other things, because they're just controversial, aren't they? And I don't know, whatever. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It's not. I don't really have an opinion on it.
Right, Matt. Enjoy the rest of the weigh-in. Fight night tomorrow. I'm sure we'll catch up with you post-fight.
Cheers.
Matt Macklin, IFL TV. Thank you very much.
That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something. Completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.